own terms, on his own, with his own name now. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
It's a little bit.
What are we listening to? What is that?
This is new Zane.
Ooh. What's it called?
Entertainer.
Entertainer. Yeah, that's nice.
It's a vibe, right?
Yeah.
I like how thoughtful he's been with his music thus far. You
I
know?
just like his eyebrows.
Dude, he's a handsome dude, no
He's
question.
just
about
very
it.
nice eyebrows.
It's unbelievable. Did you ever see the post I put up where when the iPhone 10 was announced and the iPhone 8 was announced? This is sort of Apple inappropriate, but it's already out there. The iPhone, I'm going straight in there with my man Mike Shinoda. Mike Shinoda, ladies and gentlemen. Mike Shinoda.
We're way too unprofessional right now.
We know each other too well for all this nonsense. So anyway, so the iPhone X gets announced. Amazing. The iPhone 8 gets announced. Also, great device. Fantastic. And, you know, people were like, oh, there's an 8 and there's a 10. Why would I? And the question starts going viral, you know what I mean? So I put up this post where I split this picture of me and Zane together, just weirdly enough wearing the same outfit.
Amazing.
When we were doing an interview. Yeah. And I split it, put a line down the middle of it, and put iPhone 8 under me and iPhone X under it.
I love it.
And he retweeted it, and I've checked, last time I checked, I think 4.5 million people now know me as iPhone 8.
That's great. I love it.
At least I'm an iPhone. What's going on, man?
I'm good, man. It's a good day.
It's a good day. It's so good to see you, man. I'm so thrilled you're here with new music. And I kind of feel like we just got to go because it's like 10 a.m. We promised people new music at 10 a.m. and I don't want to muck around. And we've got a whole hour, I think, right, to kick it and talk and hang out, which I'm really hanging out for.
I don't know what we're going to talk about. We could talk about anything.
We are going to kind of talk about anything, you know what I mean? We're going to talk about life. We're going to talk about a few challenges, but a lot of triumphs. We're going to talk about the banal and the important. It's going to be a lovely hour of conversation. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, that moment you've been waiting for right here, Mike Shinoda, brand new, running from my shadow, no words, just music right now. Mike, can we do this?
Let's do it.
Right on.
World first.
It's crazy.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for listening, everybody.
Everybody is tapped in right now. Of course, we are streaming this video. You can watch this live right now, Beat One on YouTube, and you can also obviously listen to it on Apple Music, which you're doing. Mike Shinoda is with us right now from Post Traumatic. His forthcoming new album. Debut album under your own name.
Yes, sir.
Running From My Shadow featuring Grandson. Grandson?
Grandson.
Talk about it.
Man, I found out about this kid online. He was, I mean, just like, you know, I caught one of the songs. I think it was Blood in the Water. Ooh, coffee's getting delivered. Nice.
Yeah.
I caught Blood in the Water, and I really love that track. And it turns out that I had basically followed him on, like Instagram or something, and he DM'd me, and it turned out that we live like, I don't know, like less than 15 minutes apart from each other.
What? No one lives close to... No one lives within 15 minutes of you. If you don't know where Mike lives, basically he's almost completely and utterly off the radar.
I'm in a cave. Well, that's the thing, is I'm 15 minutes underground, and he lives directly above my cave.
Okay, so technically, right, we're all 15 minutes away from you.
We ended up going to lunch and talking, and next thing I know, I already had this song going, and I hadn't figured out the ending yet, and he came over, and he brought his friend Kevin, who played guitar on the end.
Shreds.
And I love those guys. They're just really cool guys. And that, like, you know, that young, just getting started kind of like energy, you know?
Yeah.
Like, he had a million questions, and they were all like step one kind of questions, which by the way, he'll love he'll love that I'm talking about this, because it's stuff like
what? Like what kind of questions?
It's stuff like from, you know, how to manage the beginning of a career. Like, oh man, I went from like a couple, you know, tens of thousands or maybe 100,000 spins on a song to like a few million. Like, what do I do with this? What do I do with this? Like, am I doing the right thing with my management? Am I doing the right thing with my life? Like, you know, and he had just moved here from Canada. So it was like kind of like he was approaching it like a mentor thing, which I'm happy to do. Like, I've done, you know, I love talking to young artists about you know, my path and what I see.
Well, you're in a perfect position to do so at a time when Los Angeles is becoming a spot where a lot of musicians, artists, aspiring managers, labels, people who want to use this direct distribution come to Los Angeles, because recording studios are here, collaborative possibilities are here, and the marriage of tech and music is here.
Absolutely.
And you must have seen that change, you know, being out here from day one and always being at the cutting edge of technology, but watching it kind of basically move up sticks and move to this part of the world.
I mean, right here in this neighborhood, like down here where Beats is in Apple, it's like, you know, how many, 10 years ago, there was like nothing here but industrial warehouses. And now you've got YouTube and Apple, and you have all these huge companies who come down here.
We lunch together.
Very excited.
I'm joking. I'm just kidding. We have barbecue Saturdays.
Yeah, you can't help it. I mean, you guys are all basically in the same building. So it's just, if you guys ever drive down here, it's this really beautiful cardboard building. You know, it's probably about the size of like a Toys R Us.
Are you saying we're a house of cards?
It's a Toys R Us. You'll recognize it because you'll see Zane outside talking into his iPhone
with a sandwich board on with Apple Music's logo on it, going subscribe.
Subscribe now.
You've got a great relationship with Apple right from day one. You got a lot of fans in the building, a lot of friends in the building, man. I know technology means a lot to you. I want to talk about that. That's going to be our next subject right here. You should be streaming and watching this live right now on YouTube. Beats One. Go to the site, check it out. We're in the studios right here in Los Angeles. But if it's all right with you, man, I'm going to overkill on this without a shadow of a doubt. Running From My Shadow featuring Grandson, just getting started. Mike Shinoda in the perfect spot. Post Traumatic is upon us. It's Beats One Apple Music. I just want to know how you feel right now listening back to music once it's completed, because I know how deep in that situation that you go.
Yeah.
And when you hear it sort of come out, it's mixed, it's mastered, it's coming through headphones, you're hearing it like others are hearing it. Is it a detached experience? Do you feel like you're still in the studio?
I mean, you know how it is. Like every time I finish a record, regardless of what it is, like even if it's just a song with somebody else or a Linkin Park record or this album, it's always, there's always this feeling of like, I feel like I get the songs to a point where the experience is like maybe 50% done.
Right.
The other half of the experience is when somebody else takes that song and hears it in their life or associates it with something that they've been through or feels something. Like that's everybody like hears a song and adds their own personal experience to it.
How do you stay connected to the other 50% then? Once the record is out and you're finding out how people are beyond the stage, obviously, which is now going to become an increasing, I guess, part of your life again. Mm-hmm. Do you go on social media? Do you follow responses, reactions? Do you see what people are saying?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of it is social media, obviously, and we have I've always had a really like high interest or high stamina for doing like things like meet and greets and meeting in person. Like, I love meeting fans in person. And it's not just like somebody stopping you on the street. Like before every show for, I don't know, it's almost been like 20 years at this point. Mm-hmm. Like before every show, with very few exceptions, I do a meet and greet. Like this last one I did last Saturday downtown. I played a headline show at City Hall, which was a free show, and then I was able to do like a kind of a smaller meet and greet, about 40 people. And then I got done with that, and we shot all these pictures, and I felt like awkward even leaving. Like, so I like stopped, and I talked to more people along the like sideline, and it's kind of some of the people on my team were like, dude, you need to stop, like knock it off, let's go. But I love, there's like a, that, just, it's not just taking the temperature of like, how are things going with you, how are things going with me, but they have, it's been a crazy year, and I feel like there's this, it's a culture, it's a community, like between me and the guys and the fans. There's something more than just like band and fan.
I wondered that, given the circumstances and what's been going on in recent times for you, for your friends, for your just still coming forever sadly departed friends, family, and for your fans, whether that relationship has kind of changed a little bit when you see them now, and whether there's a sort of different, there's a different kind of empathy or a different kind of reaction that you have to each other because of it.
Yeah,
a different bond.
It is a little bit different. It kind of, on one hand, it when Chester passed, a lot of people were reminded of the beautiful or powerful or all of these experiences they had with the music and with him, even if it was just like, oh man, I really loved In the End. I really loved the mashup with Jay-Z or whatever that thing was. it just came back to them, I felt like. And they were so, and I know because they were so vocal on social media. Like I was just like inundated with all these wonderful messages and tributes and graffiti murals and all this stuff. You know, people like making stuff in tribute. And the other thing is, like, I feel like with the place we're at now, whenever something major happens and people kind of know about it, like let's say, you know, you break up with a girlfriend, okay, and all your friends, your family knows that happened. Everyone you know, the first time you see them, they want to talk to you about it, and they want to ask you, how are you doing? You know, what happened? Blah blah blah. And for me, that, you know, for a normal person, how many people do you think that is? It could be a couple dozen people. It could be 100 people. I mean, it's whatever. Yeah. For me, it's literally everyone. Yeah. It's just everyone everywhere. Yeah. Yeah. And so when I go to a new city, when I go to a new country, anyone I talk to, usually it kind of starts there, or that has to come up in the conversation.
It's funny, you know, because I remember I sent you a text, like, you know, when I found out. And I remember holding my phone and thinking, you know, remembering this amazing piece of advice, which I think is really important to share to everybody watching and listening to this right now, because I think this is a keeper. A friend of me said to me once, a guy called Richard, said to me once, we were talking about a mutual friend who was going through a tough time. And my instant reaction was, I need to reach out to that person. And I need to put myself in their life in order to make sure they're okay. And he said, very thoughtful of you, but remember, in life, it's always important to be thoughtful with your thoughtfulness. And I thought that was
really nice.
Really nice,
like
you know. So we reach out and we extend a hand. We have to make sure the timing is right, and we have to make sure we put ourselves in other people's shoes. Mike Shinoda is with us. It is a time to celebrate. Post-Traumatic, the album is coming. We're going to play more music. We're going to talk about life. And of course, In the End from Linkin Park right here remains a standard. remember day one, bro. Day one. You were so young, man, and yet you already knew exactly what you were doing. And I said before, when you actually arrived into the studio, you know, I think you can see around corners, and I think you guys could see around corners from day one. You just knew what was going on.
I'm glad we gave you that impression. I felt like we did not know what we were doing.
Well, you straight-faced it out of it, bro. Seriously. In the end, of course, Hybrid Theory is just one of many amazing albums that remain and will remain forevermore. We were talking about that amazing ability because we sort of continue that conversation a little bit off the air, frustrating for fans, I know. Where we continue that conversation about the way that people react and how, you know, when you make something that means something to people, or you say something that means something to people, you become something of an inspiration that, you know, you have to become accustomed to dealing with that to make them feel good.
Right. And you were saying, and you were pointing at like Paul McCartney, for example.
Yeah, I was saying how good he is at it because he's known his whole life he's going to be a Beatle. So I got to work out a way to make people feel like they had a special moment with a Beatle, but we're good.
Yeah, and you said something interesting, which is that the feeling of awkwardness or nervousness is very transferable.
It is.
Like
so,
it's contagious, right?
Yeah, he doesn't want to be in a situation where he spends the rest of his life meeting people and feeling their awkwardness, right? He's got to make them feel comfortable quick.
For sure. And I got an experience with that myself. We did after we had done Collision Course with Jay-Z, we got an opportunity to play on the Grammys, and we had this idea because really the movement where Collision Course came from was the mashup stuff that was happening. Mashups really kicked off with Danger Mouse making a mashup with the Beatles' White Album and Jay-Z's Black Album.
And then AM, rest his soul as well. Such a huge inspiration in that world, for sure.
Thank you. Yeah. And so they when they invited us to play the Grammys, we thought, oh, wouldn't it be cool to nod to the Grey Album and do the song with Paul McCartney? Yeah. Like, that'd be crazy. And we sent out the invite thinking, he's not going to say yes. He said yes before Jay said yes.
Crazy.
Like, it was great.
Crazy.
And he was so sweet and so humble about it. We got to the rehearsals, did our little run through of the song, did a couple times. I remember our bass player Dave. He was so nervous because he was like, I wonder if Paul's gonna just like want to play bass and then I'll be basically like kicked out. Like he's like, that's the only thing I'm doing on stage. And Paul, and he even acknowledged that to Paul. Paul's like, oh, you're a great bass player. Like, it's great. I want to.
Okay, man. Don't worry about it.
He was so funny, and we came off stage.
Awkward.
You know what I'm saying? Like even we were awkward around him, and he put us at ease. And we came off stage, and the pinnacle, the moment when it was just like, gosh, this guy is just he's too much. He came off stage and he looks over and there's literally a janitor with a broom. Like he's like in his outfit with a trash can and a broom and he's standing there just staring. And Paul like looks over and he just walks over to this man and they have a nice like 5-10 minute conversation, take some pictures, and he just put this guy at ease and the guy was freaking out.
I think he needs it.
Yeah, it was so nice.
I think as people, I think, and you can apply this to anybody who's achieved anything or goes on to achieve anything in life. I think you need to remain who you've always been. Yeah. And I think that's who he is as a human being. And also, you know, he's achieved so much throughout his entire life, but just as a Beatle, it all happened in such a short amount of time that you've got to kind of create some coping mechanisms through what he's been through in order to live your life, just to live a healthy life.
Yeah,
you know
I agree
what I mean?
with that. I agree with that.
You've been going through that, and respect to you, and part of that has been making a brand new album, Post-Traumatic, and I guess I sort of want to know all about it. I want to know where you recorded it, how you got going, what the stages were, and whether or not it was it took you through the process of therapy somewhat as well.
Yeah, well, so it's been less than a year. It'll be about a year the week that the album comes out since Chester passed away.
Wow.
Which feels weird. It's like weird that it's been a whole year.
Yeah.
And in the weeks past that, at first I was really anxious to even get in the studio. And then I realized that if I didn't get in soon and just do anything, I didn't need to, the pressure to make something interesting didn't have to be high. I just wanted to get in there and just do something.
And were people encouraging you? Like, was your wife, your family turning around?
I honestly didn't see very many people. Like, I stayed in my house. It was sad because my friends came to me for the most part, and everybody was reaching out via text and all of that, me and the other guys in the band. But my other friends were coming to the house, bringing food and stuff, and just checking in, which was really sweet. And then I remember there was a day that I wanted to go out to lunch. Like, I've got the guts to go out to lunch with Anna, and we're just gonna go have just really close to the house, go eat, and then come back. And sure enough, like on the way home, like walking out of the restaurant back to the car, there's paparazzi, they're being really weird. And it just made me so grossed out and so scared.
Yeah.
And I was so mad, and I just went home and I didn't go out of the house again for like days. So it was a bad time.
Rough.
And I started basically, one of the reasons why I started making music and painting again was because I knew that the longer I stayed in that place, the more anxious I would be about starting to get back to normal.
Yeah.
So I kind of dove into the music and the painting, and everything changed. It just all changed. I was making paintings, and I'd work on a painting for a little bit, and then I'd draw something, and I'd listen to stuff, and then I'd go make some stuff, and I'd make a song, and it would be terrible, but that would be okay. It would be fine. And then eventually I started making some stuff that I really liked. Yeah. And at a certain point, I knew that I wanted to put it out, that it would be helpful and therapeutic for me to put it out. It'd be therapeutic for some of the fans to hear it and just know because there were a lot of questions about like, how am I doing? Like they didn't know. And everybody's online asking me these things. I'm not really responding. So I figured I'd start putting it into the songs.
Mike Shinoda was always going to be Mike Shinoda in this project. It was never going to be full.
It's very much me, isn't it? Like, I think a lot of people were like, whoa, this is like a lot of music. Like, Post-Traumatic is going to be, Post-Traumatic is 16 songs. Wow. And that's the longest.
It's not even a wow. Can I retract that? There is no wow in the modern age because it's streaming, dude. You could put 100 songs out. It doesn't matter. Wow, like it's a CD.
Well, I mean, because you think about it in terms of, I always think about it in terms of, I have no problem with the track by track, singles thing. Like, some people have they like one thing or another. I don't care.
Yeah.
But so I've put out, this is today, Running From My Shadows, the 7th song off the album I've put out. And there's still yet 9 more songs on the album to go. So you're still going to get like a big chunk of the narrative. I feel like it's a story. Like I captured, when I was making the songs, my number one goal, other than just making stuff that sounded like I wanted to listen to it over and over, the number one goal was, it occurred to me that I'm going through something that I've never been through before, and it's really heavy. Like it can be really deep. It could be really, I don't know what's going to happen. And every moment that it was happening, I woke up or I like reflected and I thought, this is something that's happening in my life, or thought that I'm having, that's important, and I've never had it before. I did my best to capture that in the moment when it was happening, and not just write it in the moment, but actually record it too. So like, I feel like I can even hear in the tone of my voice and the way that I did it, that I knew where I was at on that day.
I love the story behind this song as well. About You featuring Black Bear. It's always such a moment, right? You just think that you got away from something, but your subconscious has other ideas. It's Mike Shinoda with us for the rest of this hour right here, streaming live on YouTube and Apple Music. About You. right, we're going in. I love that so much. That song to me is one of the best things you've ever been a part of. I actually
thank you. I was just shouting you out on Twitter with Black Bear.
Oh man, love that guy too.
He's amazing. He's amazing. Yeah. And you know, I've been thinking about him a lot. He's been kind of radio silent on Twitter, and it's always one of those moments you go, okay,
you good?
You know, stuff's going on. That's okay.
You're okay. You're good. Especially because he's, you know, traditionally a fairly unfiltered human being.
Yeah.
You know,
well, he's funny because like if you know him, he's like an unabashed, unapologetic troll. He loves trolling people. Like my fans, they say that about me. He's like next level with it.
Really? They think you're a troll?
I do it on purpose. I do it in a very
Have I been missing something?
Safe for them, kind of way. Like they don't even know how I could be really messing with them, and I'm not.
So you're Paw Patrol.
I'm Paw Patrol. Yeah. He's crazy. But yeah, that track we did it. Actually, there's a group, mostly instrumentalists. Called Bass Camp. Yeah. And I had reached out to Black Bear, and I mean the backstory is on the last Linkin Park album, One More Light, we wrote Sorry for Now. The song Sorry for Now was me and Brad and Black Bear and our friend Andrew, who's a friend of Black Bear's, and he had introduced us. Had a really good time on that. Chester was actually in and out of the room as well, and it just felt like it felt like a moment. Like I don't know how to explain it. There was just more weight to that session than usual.
There's a lot of weight to that album.
Yeah, it was something about the I don't know what it was. Like there was something about the lyrics and the vibe in the room. And so, you know, months later, I did find myself checking in with Bear and just seeing how he was doing and stuff. And we got to talking about doing another, you know, I was doing my album, and I told him I really wanted him to be a part of it because of that experience we had before.
Yeah.
And yeah, it took a minute to like kind of get there and get in the studio and stuff, but we made it happen. He introduced me to the Bass Camp guys, and they kind of you know, that vocoder kind of robot stuff at the end. Yeah. That was mostly them. It was all of us together. But,
I like that you're having fun.
Yeah.
When I hear these songs, I like that you're having fun. I know that you're dealing with things thematically, and you're being honest and as vulnerable in your music as you've always been, as you can. But I like within the production and the music that it's not a somber record.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like it sounds like you're having fun trying new things, and the beats are heavy. Like
I was joking with somebody the other day. I think at every step of the process, I kept telling people like I'd work on a mix or something, and every moment of the way it was like needs more bass.
Needs more bass.
It's like the bassiest record I've ever made.
But not just bass. Yeah,
love it.
It is without a doubt. But not just bass. Also, it's like you know that We Will Rock You stuff. Make it on every song. It's kind of got that kind of.
It's like neo. Like I grew up on boom bap hip hop. Like I love.
He's got a ruckus cap going on right.
My
here.
Ruckus cap. Yeah. Shout out to the Hundreds. What's up? It wasn't just 90s stuff either. Like I've always loved that you know, had a special place in my heart for boom bap hip hop, and you know, from the Public Enemy days and Bomb Squad and Dre's productions back then through, you know, DJ Premier and
listen to this. Hang on.
What's that?
This is the first thing anyone ever heard on an album if they went and bought a Linkin Park album. I mean, come on, right from the very beginning, right? Mm-hmm. Right from the very beginning, it's like, okay, we're going to put out One Step Closer, and you guys are going to be thinking we're like a modern rock band, all that sort of stuff.
And
that's
the first
cool.
part of the album.
The first thing you hear is like that for a while. Imagine that Linkin Park at the very beginning of their recording sessions, for a while, this was just on loop.
Yep, that's right. That's how it was. It was on an MPC back then, too. Not even like a computer.
When you hear this beat now, it's still thumps. Still knocks, buddy.
Thank you, buddy.
When you listen to this beat right now, and you think about your life since that moment, and let's put it in a celebratory lens, right? And you think about everything you've achieved, all those concerts you've been, all those tours you've done, all those records, those awards, those award shows, those things that you've achieved, those fans you've met, and you think about this first statement, Paper Cut. What do you think about this song?
What always happens to people is that they look at things through the lens of the success that happened after. They say that was success. They do it with the Olympics. They do it with sports and stuff like that. They go, oh yeah, you know, after the event happens and the person, and Michael Phelps wins the gold medal for the bajillionth time, they go, well, look at, you know, let me tell you why he won. Look at his hands, look at his physique, look at his whatever. And for us, it's like you go back to it and you start to think, no, these were kids. We were kids. I was going back and forth between my parents' house, my room in my parents' house, and an apartment in Glendale. I barely had enough money for lunch and dinner, and we were making this stuff. That's what was happening.
Crazy.
Just friends making music, man. Get it, Zane.
That's awful. What
happened there at the end, though?
That's because I had the delay on. You asked me before when we got on. You were like, "Yo, you still out there DJing?" I think you know the answer.
You're still better than me, though.
All right, Mike Shinoda, we got you live in the studio right here. Beats One. I love this song from day one. I love it right now. It's like the face inside is right beneath the skin. It's like I'm paranoid. Dude, I used to ruin this song nightly at XFM, man. I would just treat it like a canvas for me to sing over.
Yeah, you were the new lead singer.
Bro, absolutely.
Yeah.
Bro, the middle eight on this song is everything that is beautiful about Linkin Park. From the knock, to the heavy, to the emotion, to the vulnerability. Everything great about this band. Everything! Woo! And that bit when you come back in over the top with the rap and you do that little, oh my God.
Zane, you're living your best life right now.
Of course I am. You'll hear this bit. It's like I'm paranoid looking over my back. It's like a whirlwind inside of my head. It's like I can't stop what up within. It's like the face inside is right beneath the skin. It's like I'm paranoid. Whirlwind inside of my head. It's like I can't stop. Oh, let's loop that. It's like I can't stop what. Oh, you're crazy. It's like I can't stop what I'm within. It's like the face inside is right. Perfect.
There's a deep history of DJs shouting over music. It's not DJ Khaled didn't invent it. He may be the best, but he didn't invent it. I remember way back in like, you know, the days of like DJ Clue. Do you know DJ Clue? Okay, so like I remember getting mixtapes from like old Wu-Tang stuff, old Biggie stuff, all these. It was mostly, you know, New York rappers. Yeah. Between him and like Funk Flex and all that, like they would just shout over the entire song, and we would live for those shouts.
Oh my God, I mean, totally. Westwood. I mean, it's funny, man. When I started out, the way it worked out, just to make a very, very quick background, like, I didn't know what my vibe was on radio.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Of course.
I didn't have 60 people around me kind of making magazine-style radio. I just had music.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to my friend Ben Hall, good buddy of mine still, I said, I don't know what I'm doing.
I don't know how to relate to this music. And he said, dude, with a few drinks in you, nobody gets more into music than you. Nobody. Like you just air drum through everything. You'll stop the entire conversation and just say, you're not listening.
Yeah.
He's like, do that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I did.
That's true. And it's so funny because it's like who was it? I think it was Rick Rubin said something like
Sorry, it had to happen.
no, this wasn't in person. This was like,
it still sounds great though.
But Rick, I think it was in an interview or something. He's like, I think he said that listening to music, like really listening to it, is an act of love. Like it's an act of generosity and care that you would divert your attention, like you'd shut everything off, and that you would pay attention to the art that somebody made. And I think that's true for any type of art. Anything anybody else makes, from the artist's perspective, if you're going to stop for a moment and pay attention to it, how I can't express the gratitude that I would have for somebody who does that. And it's for every single human being that does it every time. Right?
You got a lot of them.
But the thing is,
We're all
like,
out here.
especially now, when things, for me this year, I felt at different points like, okay, it's just, everything's flattened to its foundation. Like the building is crumbled, everything's on the ground and burned, and it's ruined. I don't even know. And now I feel like, but there's still people who care. Like there's still people that are supporting, still people that like, want to come to the studio and make a song and get on stage, and they still care.
So this is where we have to be thoughtful with our thoughtfulness.
Yeah, thoughtful with your thoughtfulness.
You said something just then that I think is really important that we put into some context for people.
Okay.
Because everyone's going through, at some point in their life, something which feels like the building is crumbled, as you put it. And I think that you saying that so openly, I think will be a real revelation for fans who are listening and watching right now, because they will have assumed that, of course, it gets no lower than something like that. But for you to put it in context like that, like it was, everything was just flat.
Yeah. I mean,
and you've come out the other side with music, and you're putting yourself back into frame in your own way. That experience from there to there over the course of the last year. And it's just like, I think people need to kind of understand that's the case, because they forget, right? They forget that they're not alone.
Well, because a part of it might be also the context that in music, there are a variety of reasons people get into music. They get into music. Some people get into it accidentally. They just make something cool, and other people go, wow. And all of a sudden, you go from putting something together on your laptop in your room to getting on a stage somewhere, and it feels crazy. It feels weird. Other people, they do it because they want to get girls. They may want to make money. It's like, oh, I just can't wait until I get like free clothes from so-and-so.
That was everybody in the 80s, by the way.
Right. And that's fair. Like, fine. If that's your thing, go for it.
Yeah.
And for me, music has always been an outlet that, like, when I have difficult things going on, I usually turn to painting, art, music to kind of just, it's almost like a meditation. Like I sit down and I do them and I think out loud, and I put the things that I'm feeling and thinking into the song. And it's always been about that more than anything else. So take that and multiply that by 6 guys who get together and they're in a band together, and their friendships go from, I knew these guys pretty well, to like we're best friends. We make our stuff, start making our first album. That does okay. That's pretty good.
And then, wasn't it Diamond?
It was the best-selling album on the planet that year, ahead of Britney Spears, which is the weirdest, because I always thought of Britney Spears as like, okay, this girl's blowing up. Like that's like that Madonna, Michael Jackson level pop music. Like, okay, great, that's the biggest. And then the year ended, and they went, you outsold Britney Spears on the planet. And we did what? Like, we had no idea what even had happened. Yeah. We were still wrapping I was still living in an apartment.
Yeah.
And that had already happened.
Yeah.
So we go through that, and then we make all these songs and all these albums and all this stuff. And for me, as much as making art and making music has always been part of my identity, like it's fundamental, it's DNA level part of me. The band is also that to a degree. It's also like synonymous with my name. Like you won't hear my name and not hear Linkin Park, right? Like usually. So fast forward then to this last year, and I'm feeling like I had different moments of doubt and like weird thoughts about, well, that's, this is all how that played out now. Like this, I don't know if this means the book is over, right? is this a chapter or is this the whole book? And that's terrifying. Like that's, you know, if you think about like an artist's body of work, oftentimes an artist, like they talk about this with painters a lot, when they pass away, that's when they become famous. Like nobody gives a crap until after they pass away, and all of a sudden their paintings are worth 10 times more, and so on and so forth. But what if it's not one artist? What if it's a group of artists and somebody passes away and that happens, and it's like then all of a sudden you know, people are talking about it and whatever, but you're the other person on the other end going like, yeah, but like, is it over? Is it not over? I don't know.
It's the funniest thing, you know. I was talking to someone about this the other day, and I asked a question. I was like, why do artists flirt with finality so much? The idea of this is my last album, this is my last tour.
That's really deep, Zane. It's deep. It's deep because it's really, really true.
Really true. Artists flirt with finality.
Forever. That's
been the way, right? Why is is art never far away from the final piece of art? And so I wondered why that is, you know. And I'll just say who it was because she gave a great answer. So I was talking to Lana Del Rey, and I said to her, why?
There it is. Thank you. I couldn't reach the button.
I said, why do artists flirt with finality? And she was like, I think because we worry that we're not gonna reach the bar again that we've set for ourselves or set for the people that appreciate what we do, or we're not going to be able to draw the emotion out that people look for in our music or our art, or we're not going to be able to insert some goal here, right? And so we become analytical about it, and rather than kind of set ourselves up for another journey, which is a lot for artists. We take it, consume it, love it, but it's a journey to get it out. Rather than put ourselves on that roadmap ahead of time, we got to wait until we have to do it. Because if we ask ourselves, do we want to do it? We might not like the answer.
Well, we just I think a lot of artists get really self-conscious, and there's an anxiety that builds up. I mean, look at it this way. Like because I went to school at an art school, so. It wasn't at a normal school, for example, I think they say usually like 15% of the school population is like super introverted. At my school, it was backwards. It was 85% of the school. And they know this. This isn't like they actually have them do, what's the name of that test where you do the like INTJ, EN, whatever. It's like they do a personality test. Right. And they do it. There's a mandatory class that's not just about that test, but in the class, which is about psychology of the psychology of artists. It's called psychology of success, but it's kind of the opposite. It's like the psychology of overcoming this introversion and these things that most of the artists have to become and keep your eyes focused on being successful or just getting the job done.
Yeah, because it's completely and utterly ignored fact that most artists don't even contemplate what success is at the beginning. Like you said, outselling Britney Spears, and I'm still living in an apartment. I'm making music because it's what I gravitate toward. I'm not expecting this. Right?
Yeah. Well, there's and there were moments, even more like that weighed down on us more is in the middle of that when we didn't know, we put out a song, we put out One Step Closer and it did well, and we were driving around the country in an RV. Like I was driving the RV with our gear in it and in a trailer, and until that tour, I'd never driven an RV before. I didn't even know what I was doing. It was probably extremely unsafe.
You probably weren't even licensed.
It was super unsafe, actually. And we were just like flying by the seat of our pants. Like we didn't know what was going to happen or what we were doing. We just, living it. And and we weren't like, it wasn't like paychecks were coming. It wasn't like, oh, okay, here's like the reward was like, oh,
industry rule number 4080.
It's a checks in the mail is basically what they were saying. And then like 6 months go by and you're like, the check's still in the mail?
Yeah,
like
you're calling up UPS like,
what's that? Really?
Lost a piece of mail from Mike Shinoda?
Yeah. No. Who are you? So yeah, it was just one of those, it's like going back to your original point though. It's like I think people are talking a lot and about mental health, about depression and anxiety and all of the things related. And it's not just because of music. It's not just because of Chester. It's not because of Lil Peep. It's not because of Avicii. Those things. Chris, going back further. Yeah, you can keep going. It's really sad
keep going. It's
how far you can just keep going, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, like like all my love and respect and whatever level of understanding I can give, I give to them, their families, their fan bases too, because I've watched what happens with our fan base, and I watched our fan base reach out to Avicii's fan base. Like, and we didn't do anything to like instigate this. They just did it because they cared. That to me speaks to the power of what is of the issue of mental health and the fact that there is an awareness about it right now that there wasn't 5 years ago. So, and I'm glad that's the case. And and that story is ongoing. Like I want to keep talking about that. I want people to keep bringing it up, because I know that it's uncomfortable for people to talk about.
I am the change. I mean, that's an important thing.
It relates. By the way, like the Parkland kids, they're going through a lot of the same, separating out all the different feelings they're feeling. One of them is that, man, I lost my friend. Yeah. And that's what I feel. That's what these other people feel. That's the same feeling. And when we get out there and we go like, you guys, I know that our situations are totally different. But we do have this thing in common, and you can talk about it to me because I get it.
There's an understanding and an empathy attached to this tragedy. Yeah.
I think it's growing. Speaking of empathy, I think it is growing emotional intelligence. Like
I agree.
There's IQ. I read this book once about emotional intelligence. There's if you separate it out, there's IQ and there's EQ. EQ is for emotional intelligence, and we always focus so much in school on IQ. We say, oh, we're going to do tests. How intelligent is this person? But the truth is, if they're only intelligent in that analytical, academic kind of way, but they don't have any EQ, like I'm not going to want to work with that person. You're not going to want to hire that person because they don't treat people right. They don't know how to treat other people. And the more we just prioritize that and just be aware that it exists and say, yeah, I care. It matters how you treat people. It matters how you look at your emotions when you wake up in the day. You wake up in the beginning of the day and say, oh, how do I feel today? I feel pretty good today. That's good. And you can share that with somebody else and maybe make other people feel better. I wake up today, I feel bad. You go, oh, like it's like physical ailment, right? If you woke up and you said, oh, my back hurts, you would stretch, you would run, you might, if it's really bad, you might see a doctor. Same thing for your emotions. Yeah. Oh, I feel bad. Maybe I should run. Maybe I should do an exercise. Maybe I need to take a medicine. Maybe I need to see a doctor for my emotions. Yeah. Those things, like, just do it. It's so silly that's like a, I don't know, that there's a
stigma.
Stigma, that's the word. Thank you.
I'm really, one thing I'm incredibly positive about, and my friends and the people that I speak to about this have varying reactions. Some people are a little more what they would call realistic.
They would call?
Yeah. I would call it pessimistic. And maybe I'm overly optimistic. I would prefer idealistic. But from my point of view, I feel like we are, through the transparency of information and the constant sharing, which does raise concerns about how much the brain can kind of consume and take at any given time and whether or not that's affecting the way that we're relating to each other. But one thing that I feel is happening is we're being, and certainly kids now are seeing and experiencing things that were before not spoken of and not addressed. Yeah. And it's breaking down the barrier, and that transparency is alleviating any kind of fear that we've grown up with about addressing these things. Yeah. There's less fear, I think.
Yeah. It's like the more you can apply it to anything. You can apply it to people that are different from you culturally or in other ways. That if you've lived your whole life and you never met, well, I was going to say if you're white and you've never met a black person, but I've actually been over into Asia where, in some cities in China, for example, they've never really seen a white person in person. And so like when we went out there, I'm half, so I blend a little more than some of our crew does. And then you catch people like staring at somebody. All of these things we're talking about, like the more you just like, the more it's familiarized with you. Like if you just keep an open mind and just look at it and listen to it and get familiar with it, it inevitably becomes less scary because you just understand it a little more.
Understanding
it's fine to say, and it's fine to say like, I disagree with this, but I get it. I listened and I get it, and it's just I just disagree with it. You're not going to be yelling at that point.
Yeah,
right?
well, that's where the fear kicks in when you start raising your voice. We've got a few more minutes.
We got really deep. This was crazy.
I've enjoyed it though. Come on, we've been dancing around this for a minute, and you know, I've often said to you throughout the years, because I respect you so much as a musician and an artist, but I also love your brain, which is why I call you Shinoda. I've always said the door's always open, but it is a fact, and whenever you come in, I love it. So you know, we've got a lot of people who are watching this right now, a lot of people listening to this right now, and you seem like you're processing things in a good place. So I guess, you know, for the sake of the fans, myself included, have you and the guys gotten anywhere toward resolution and what the future feels like? And I emphasize the word feel.
It feels like, yeah. Because everybody asks about that, and we don't have answers. You know, that's been the common thread. One thing that I was just talking to Joe. I saw Dave last week, and I just shot an email back and forth with Joe. And we were just talking about the fact that, like, just being active, like being out there in the world for all of us, you know, is helpful. It moves the ball forward. Like it's almost like, is it true, by the way? Do you know if it's true that there's like I don't know if it's in Australia or New Zealand or maybe both, that people go on a walkabout. Is that a real thing?
Yeah, people walk about. They go out and I don't know much about it, but it's a term that's been thrown around as long as I've been alive.
Yeah, it's like a thing. It's like basically the idea is at a certain point in life, there's this. It's kind of ceremonial.
Mm-hmm.
Like you go
in Australia, I think primarily.
Yeah, you go out
Mm-hmm.
and you leave and you walk about and you don't. There isn't a goal. Like it's the journey.
Yeah.
And when you're done, you're done.
Yeah.
So that's what this is.
Yeah.
It's just that. It's just the journey of going out and checking out what's out there in the world and trying lots of things, and we're all doing it. And the fans may not hear about, you know, the unsexy versions of it that all five of us are doing, because it might involve brunch.
Brunch can be sexy.
It might involve
brunch can be sexy.
It might involve going out to dinner with somebody that no fan has ever really heard of, and you just get a little piece of information. You go, that meant something.
Yeah.
That was interesting. I'm gonna put that over here with the rest of my information, and hopefully at some point it all adds up to something that's exciting for us and exciting for the fans. And when that time comes, we'll talk about it.
Mike, you and your friends have all the space in the world, as far as I can tell. Everybody wants you guys to be happy.
Thank you.
And that extends out to obviously all your families and to Chester's family.
And
as
shout
well.
out to, I was just going to say shout out to Talinda,
Amazing.
Bennington family. She's doing an incredible thing.
So
in case you guys
incredible.
weren't aware, with 320 and Change Direction, and they're doing, you know, mental health and suicide prevention related things. And you know, everybody's like I said, like everybody's focusing on, and nobody's sitting in their house moping around. Like everybody's doing stuff. So and I'm, you know, I've got this album. I'm going to be doing tour dates. Like I'm going to be out there, and we'll see where that leads. Like I feel like this is the beginning of a journey. Usually with an album, it's like, here's my album, it's done. Let's like look at it and say, look at that, isn't that cool? This for me is like, here's my album, it's the start. And we'll see what happens from here.
That's exciting, man. It's fantastic. It's been so good having you in here. All the new music from Mike is up on Apple Music right now. The album Post Traumatic is coming. It's not far now. It's coming in June. Is it June 22nd? Is it the date?
It is June 15th.
June
One line. Let's
All
see
right,
crossing
cool.
a line.
Crossing the line.